So there we are now in Hungarian forest garden. This is the place where we can show how is natural succession happening. That's not the native forest. This is happened in the 50s, 60s when there planted a lot of fruit trees, and probably about 10, 15 years ago they walk away. So this is for example how we can demonstrating the ecosystem could be work which is beneficial for specific species for us, and then how nature can taking over. We can design an ecosystem, we can do a low maintenance, intelligent, economically intelligent design where we should walk away and then keep continue without of any human impact. The place where we're standing now is just as a gate. We're gonna be show you probably about the 10,000 square meter. 1 hectare of place forest could give you about 4 or 5 days maintenance, and most of the time what you're gonna spending it's for harvesting. We don't really need any more impact, but if we can afford to spend some more time, we can make it better and faster to speed it up the system. Let me show you how is the nature taking over for the food forest. So just right in the beginning, we can see in the right hand side we have a lot of nitrogen fixing trees like the acacia family. This is establishing the ground. The soil it's very sandy and dry. We don't have too much rainfall, probably about 500 milliliter rainfall in a year, and most of it is coming down in the winter. Actually, we are just before the storm now, so I think we are lucky to be having in the cameras. We have some hazelnuts understory bush, and there is a cherry trees here. There is some all kind of nitrogen fixing support species which is kind of taking over to the canopy. And smell food, there is a old pear trees there. Most of the fruit trees is actually the native Hungarian variety. We are very lucky to can continue the old genetics. We have specialists in this village who is dealing with all traditional genetic fruit trees. By the way, for the long term, we can see there is an oak plantation they're gonna be taking over. So probably about the next 100 years to the 500 years, the oak plantation gonna be taking over. The fruit trees is only establishing maybe 50, 60 years. And after they're falling over, there is a native woodland gonna be taking over. Probably this one is planted in for firewood production. There is an old cherry trees here. There is a sweet chestnut. There is a pear. There is all kind of berries in the understory. There is horse chestnut, apple. There is walnut. There's all kind of fruit production here. And this is just a driveway. We didn't even went into there is 1 hectare of fruit production. Incredible. There is a lime trees. We must know the lime trees. There is a young leaf is very good. There can replace the salad. We don't really need to be planting some salad. There is nutrition rich leaf growing everywhere. You can replace it. You can see the sweet chestnut, there is berries, there is Rosa de Groza, and an understory. There, didn't even know the name, how much different. There is berries growing everywhere. Its production is fruiting. It's an old pear trees here, falling fruit everywhere. Let's just get ready now. pretty good. Now this is how their nature taking over. So we can clearly see the pattern of the 7 layer of the forest. We have a canopy tree that is specifically walnuts here and cherries. We have an understory trees which is pear and apple growing there. There is all kind of berries, so we already have a 3 layers. And because this very intense and then probably the light affection, we have a herb layer, but the understory that is missing, and then the ground probably are full of mushroom. Now that's happening when we walk away from ecosystem. But what we can do, we can just get in, and it's a very low maintenance, probably a few days in a hectare, just we call the chopping drop. So we're speeding up the natural cycle, which is the falling branch could be feed the fungi layer on the bottom, and then we just keep repeating the cycle, keep speeding up the cycle. We could help the nature more productive, like 2 or 3 times what nature they're doing themselves. So this is exactly the for example for how nature could be take that over. So when we have the modern mindset, we was thinking about for grapes land. It looks like a bush, but normally the grapes actually is a climber. So the 7 pattern of the forest is one of the great things is the grapes. Look at this fella. That's how naturally exists in the nature. A grape is supposed to be climbing up in the trees, and they have a special relationship with the trees. They're using the trees for trellis, and the grapes is put it up the leaves exactly when they need shade, and then losing the leaves when the temperature is dropping. So it is one of the best species for climber to using for a shade tolerant vegetation. You can see in the ground there is falling fruit everywhere. This is beautiful. We have a herb layer, we have a ground layer, we have a climber, we have a canopy trees, they're understory trees, they're all fruiting. This is what must we do. It's all kind of natural support came together. There is a huge grapes climbing up to the acacia family, which is we know there is a support species what we're using. There is a nitrogen fixing tree, so they give a lot of food and then fixing nitrogen in the soil. So that means they're supporting the fruit trees. Beside that, there is elder trees. Elder flower is just gone now, but probably they're gonna be support bees, and it gives us a lot of habitat for the nature. We have the Rosa de Grosa berries running up to the top, grapes falling. So there is 3-4 different species support each other. They're all kind of herb layer in the bottom. This is a south-facing corner, probably 3 square meter, 4 different productive trees. So we see the 7 different layers. There is canopy tree, understory tree, there is bushes, herbs, ground cover, and climber, all kind of perennial system. Let me show you what we're doing. We actually just rough like hell. We're going in and try to make your own way in there. This falling, there is fruit everywhere. If you're thirsty on the way when you make it up. So what we're doing actually, we imitate the nature, how leaf dying, but we actually speeding up the natural succession, what we call a chopping drop. And all that organic materials, it's feeding the fungi layer and creating mulch. You can see, probably I put it out this, it's full of fungi here. That's what nature doing. But we can speed it up. We can speed it up and make it much more quicker, like nature themselves. We cut back this and 2 or 3 times, and then we just speed it up and then get more regrowth, more materials that create more organic layer that's feeding the fungi. and then we have much more food for the trees. So there is the same space, have more food. That means we can use the space by time for the vertical place and cut it back in a specific time to the light affection. So if there's some of the species it's fruiting in early in the year, we leave it for exposed in the light. But when they're fruit done, actually we're changing that to another species which is a late fruiting. So we can play with this, can grow much more production at the same time and the same space. So what are we seeing here actually? It is, I only just have a look, it's a few square meters, maybe about 10, 20 square meters around me. I can see all kind of herbs, medicinal herbs, which is like shade and shade tolerant. I can see and Rosa de Gros and berries layer, which is productive. There is a lot of food. There, it's old peach trees in here, which is kind of understory. There is a small piece. There is a peach, you can catch it. And just over the peach trees, there is grapes climbing up. And on top of this, they're hanging out there. I think it's an old birch trees. Probably is the first pioneering which came up to be establishing the soil. And like 4 or 5 different fruit trees, about 20 square meters. It's much more productive with any kind of agriculture land. And also for the maintenance, we don't have to do that. We don't have to spend some time to be demolish it. The nature they're doing so, but if we can, we will make it more productive. I think that's what must be doing for forest garden or food forest demonstration. Using a species which is beneficial for us and sustaining us and our food supplier to have an ecosystem and creating the natural succession. We can design this. That's very simple. Or even a 10 square meter. What else you want? That we could create abundance. Let's give a lot of food and a lot of security for the future.